Okay. Lovely. So could you tell us something about yourself and your love of poetry?
Well, hi, everyone, and hello, Adrian. Once again, as I was mentioning earlier, my name is Dean Gessie. I'm now 61 years old. I had a long career as a teacher of English and director of a creative writing program at a college north of Toronto. During much of my adult life, and this is why UN Aligned resonated with me. Throughout much of my life, I was involved with social justice activism. I was a member of Greenpeace and the Sierra Club, and involved in a number of campaigns on their behalf, including, protesting in various cities around North America.
Wonderful.
So that was always a passion of mine: human rights and animal rights, and taking care of the planet. And clearly that's a passion of your organization, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, since I retired, I decided that I wanted to try something that I've always wanted to do, and that is to see if I couldn't make a mark as a creative writer. And I started writing poetry, and I started writing short stories. And it is as great a surprise to me as anyone else that I have enjoyed incredible success doing that. But as I say, it's surprising, but and humbling, and very rewarding. So that's what I've been doing. I've produced 4 books in the last 6 years, one of which won 2 international prizes, a collection of short stories.
Wonderful.
And as you might have seen from my biography, I've managed to win or place in more than 100 international competitions now. It's something that I really enjoy doing. International competitions give me a goal and a timeline, and I choose the ones that, again, resonate with me. And so that's a little bit about my background. I think the other reason that my love of poetry and literature comes from teaching, because I worked with thousands of students through the years, helping them not only understand but write literature. And so I think that they taught me as much as I taught them, and that was a big part of my formation as a writer later in life.
That's lovely. And what sort of genre, or do you have a genre?
Well, I write what they call literary fiction.
Right.
Yeah. So it's fiction that's pretty demanding of the reader, generally speaking.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, your poetry is also quite challenging. In order to,
it can be that, yeah.
Yeah, but wonderful nonetheless. Okay, my second question is, how did you hear about Unaligned, and what was behind the choice regarding the articles related to your poem?
Well, to be perfectly honest, which is always a good thing to do, I was researching online for writing opportunities, Adrian, which is something, as I mentioned earlier, that I enjoy doing. And I happened upon UN Aligned, and I read about the organization and the manifesto and the mission and the like. And I knew that that would be right away a good fit for me, because these were the kinds of things, ideas and actions that I had been involved with all my life. So I read about the contest and what you're looking for, and read about the various articles and, the goals of looking for a cooperative human community that, exhibits respect and shuns bigotry and xenophobia. And it was a good fit for me. So I decided that, this was something that I wanted to try.
Lovely.
And I don't know if there's anything else. I think that's about it. Just feeling a sense of that this was an organization that I would enjoy supporting.
Lovely. Thank you. We really appreciate that. How far would you agree that poetry is a good medium in order to express political views and social issues?
Well, I think that poetry is a good medium to do that, but I don't say that to the exclusion of anything or everything else. Poetry is one way to communicate effectively political and social issues, but there's also cinema and dance and theater and journalism and street activism, all those kinds of things. I think any way that we can promote the point of view that we're a human community and we need to work cooperatively toward a safer and more rewarding way of life is good. So poetry helps to do that, but I hesitate to say that it's the best method of sharing political or social viewpoints, nor is it perhaps the most effective. But I think that collectively these things have an effect on folks. The more they're exposed to a point of view, again, that supports a cooperative worldview, I think they're more likely to embrace those ideas.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
My next question is, how do you think that UN Aligned can help poets like you to promote their work?
Well, this is a short answer, Adrian, and that is you've already done it. I've enjoyed really wonderful success in your contest, and as a result, my work and my goals are shared with your readership, whom I assume share the same kinds of values and principles that we do. So you've already helped. When you give poets the opportunity to develop their thoughts and to share those thoughts with other like-minded individuals, then I think that job is done.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from competitions, obviously you're always more than welcome to publish any poems on The Guardian. We're always happy to have articles and poems.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian. That is definitely something that I will keep in mind moving forward.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. My next question is, would you mind reading your poem to us?
Right.
And perhaps afterwards giving us a little bit of insight into it.
Well, if you don't mind, I thought what I would do, if that's okay with you, is read an annotated version of the poem, and my concern is that it's so hard for any listener to absorb anything in its fullness. So my goal, I guess, is I'd love to share the poem and just stop along the way from time to time to talk about how I see it developing, if that's okay.
That would be brilliant. That's perfect.
Okay. Well, here we go. So it begins like this. The poem is called Terra Australis Incognita, and it starts like this. And those black fellows believe these white fellows, spirits of their ancestors, pale time travelers of everywhere. Okay, so the poem begins in medias res. That means that we are immediately thrust into history at a time when English settlers were arriving to current day Australia. It's interesting to note that the indigenous population, the black fellows, initially perceived the new arrivals, the white fellows, with reverence and inclusion. They believed them spirits of their ancestors. And those black fellows received venereal, opium, rum, and pox, and they returned to witchetty grubs, honey ants, and fruit bats. The harm caused by the new arrivals is immediate. The indigenous population provides food to the travelers and receives in exchange toxic culture. And the white fellows killed no one with their guns because the new land was called Terra Nullius, land belonging to no one. And it was fair to say that these white fellows did not include themselves nor irony in their census taking. So the land was initially called Terra Nullius, or land belonging to no one, which meant the colonists could kill indigenous people with impunity because they were completely dehumanized, or they were no one. They didn't exist. And the captain struck the collarbone of the elder, he that had helped himself to the white fellow's shovel, and the Aborigine elder embraced the captain and spread his arm to indicate everything he could see. And the captain surrendered his shovel of wrought iron, just as blackfellows shared their axes of polished greenstone. And so it was with ropes and stakes and sacred land. These white fellas pushed the black fellas further from the sea, scattered burial totems of coral, red basket, and dead black fellas. And the Aborigine elder pushed with the collarbone of the captain, and the captain knew it was wrong to survey and to deed what wasn't theirs. And he was ashamed. And he agreed that his voice was no greater than the magpie or the blue-winged kookaburra, and he negotiated to settle the interior space of Terra Nullius, that ground that was less hospitable like them. So this next part of the poem describes how the colonists zealously guarded their possessions, while the Aboriginal populations shared everything they had. This part of the poem also develops the idea that everything might have been much different if the visitors had learned to cooperate with their hosts. This is the imaginative conceit of the poem. The captain quickly learns humility and cooperation. Imagine if things had been like that. And handcuffs and leg irons fell from the poors and politicals, and these made a mountain of metal where everyone was free to piss. This part of the poem reminds us that violence against the Aboriginals was preceded by the example of English violence against their own, poor people and political prisoners who were brought over in chains. And the captain cast off his blue jacket and white waistcoat and humbled himself to learn Yellow Mundi, or storyteller, and Butt or heart. And he was granted initiation by they that met and decided he was 10 years old. And he was painted with red clay and fat of the walrus and wombat, and he received cuts to his chest, arms, shoulders, and buttocks, and sand in each produced voluminous scars, and the penis of this white fellow was split with a stone knife, and a front tooth was knocked out to mark him as community. And he danced the tree line, climbing, ripping, and pulling, but laying in peace with brother and sister alike. And he sang the song lines that trek creation, and he blew didgeridoo through termite eucalyptus, pressed his lips to beeswax, and shook out grins and guffaws. This long stretch of the poem further imagines the captain of the colonizers renouncing his history and culture and embracing the example of cooperation and community provided by the Aboriginal people. And to finish, and the blackfellows did not call him apostle, but he returned his blind eye seeing to the white sails of Sirius of the Orient, and he stayed the cannons and 6-pounder guns, and his voice was dreamtime and ancestral beings, and why it is that men and women walk upright. And these that saw and heard were ashamed, and they pushed the collarbone one of the other, and they agreed against greed to call this place must be there somewhere land, and it remains so to this day. The final movement to the poem depicts the captain commanding a path of peace for his own military followers because he has been transformed by the humanity of the Aboriginal population. Ironically, the ending of the poem reminds the reader that this revision of history is a literary conceit. We still wait for the kind of cultural and political change desired by good people in Australia and everywhere else. And that is Terra Australis Incognita. Thank
wow. That's lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adrian.
It's apart from sounding epic and mellifluous and having a real immediate effect, it also aroused, hearing you read it, it aroused such a passion within of injustice and all the other sort of issues you touch upon, and that's wonderful. I shall reread it.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Super. That was really lovely. Okay, thanks for that. That was really impressive. One last question is: do you see yourself as being able to contribute to Unaligned, the mission of Unaligned in the future? You say you were involved in activism in the past, and we're quite new. We're quite green, not very vociferous. Perhaps we're a bit too polite sometimes, and people like you with experience could really help us along the way. Do you think that could be a possibility in the future?
Well, I do. It's interesting for me because, as I say, when I was working as a teacher all those many years, I didn't get a lot of time to write. And I think many teachers will sympathize with that. You tend to be actively engaged with your students and the tasks that you have to do. So I didn't have a lot of time to write, and I was involved, in activism when I was able. And now that I'm out of that part of my life and into writing, most of my writing is motivated by this kind of thing, by speaking for the voiceless, the disenfranchised, the exploited. So that's still a big prime mover for me, because, like so many millions in the world, I'm moved by injustice, and I want to make a difference, certainly. And I see myself as doing that more so now as a writer, and contributing to your organization in that way. However, I still feel some pull toward other kinds of roles too that may or may not fit with your organization, but I'm certainly considering doing what I can to help UN Aligned. I really appreciate what you folk do, and I got to tell you, I'm humbled by the fact that you and your colleagues give of yourselves and your time to make a contribution and to help make the world a better place, and that's really remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you. I like you, I really believe that the issues are fundamental, and that sitting on the fence is not an option. And
yes,
I couldn't see myself living in any other way, and I think the same applies to the management team, and possibly to most of our members, if not all our members.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't mean to be morbid, but I think as you age, and one thing that I'm discovering is that you even as you age and you sort of look at your mortality a little more frequently, that sense of making a contribution even becomes more urgent.
Definitely. Yeah. I'll stop the interview here. Well, I found that really interesting, and I hope you did too. It's really thanks to people like Dean that Unaligned can march forward, battle on for a fairer and safer world. So please, if you're in a position to help in any way, by sharing your ideas, giving us some of your time, whatever it is, please do so. And becoming a member is already a great start, because the more members we have, obviously, the greater will our voice be. So please do consider that, and we'll be back with hopefully a lot more interviews and interesting things to offer you. Thank you. Goodbye.